As we already discussed and mentioned that the prehensile and manipulating functions of the hand are very important in our activities of daily life, and all those fine movements and very specific activities require a lot of control and muscle action, and for the manipulation and prehension of different objects there need to be a very fine control and movement at the level of the digits. So in this section we're going to talk about the extrinsic muscles of the hand which act at the level of the fingers or the digits and the thumb, but we are also going to specifically talk about those muscles which are actually extrinsic muscles which are originating from the forearm and exerting their action at the level of the digits, which include extensor digiti minimi, extensor indicis, extensor digitorum, extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, and abductor pollicis longus. So as we already mentioned in the previous section, we have two type of extrinsic muscles, one which are acting at the level of the wrist and one which are acting at the level of the digits. So we discussed the muscles acting at the wrist, including the extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, and extensor carpi ulnaris previously, which were acting at the level of the wrist, causing wrist extension and radial deviation, wrist extension only, and wrist extension with ulnar deviation respectively. However, in this section we're going to focus on the muscles which are specifically acting at the digits. However, they are originating outside the level of the hand, such as the forearm, and these muscles, as already mentioned, include the extensor digiti minimi, extensor indicis, extensor digitorum, extensor pollicis longus, and extensor pollicis brevis, and abductor pollicis longus. So starting off with the extensor digitorum muscles, as the name suggests, its action is that it extends the digits. So it extends all three joints of the fingers. I specifically say fingers because it does not exert any function on the thumb, and extends all three joints, which is the proximal, middle, and distal proximal interphalangeal joint and distal interphalangeal joint, as well as the metacarpophalangeal joint. So all the joints of the fingers, they are actually extended by the extensor digitorum. However, its origin is at the level of the lateral epicondyle of the humerus, because that it's also a part of the common extensor muscles of the forearm, which are commonly involved in lateral epicondylitis or tennis elbow. Thus, it has a common origin site as similar to extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. The insertion, however, is at the level of the base of the distal phalanx of second through fifth fingers, and the nerve supply is via the radial nerve, which is C6, C7, and C8. The other muscle is the extensor digiti minimi. It is also one of the muscles or the common extensors of the forearm, and thus the same origin site, which is the lateral epicondyle of the humerus, and its insertion site, however, is actually at the base of the distal phalanx of the finger, and it extends all the three joints of the little finger or the fifth finger, just like the extensor digitorum, which was exerting its function on all four fingers. However, it is doing the same but only at the level of the little finger. The nerve supply is the same as the extensor digitorum, which is C6, C7, and C8. Another muscle is the extensor indicis. It is not the part of the muscles being involved in the lateral epicondylitis or tennis elbow, because its origin site is different and it is from the distal ulna, and thus it arises medially. However, it moves slightly laterally and inserts into the base of the distal phalanx of the second finger or the index finger, and it extends all the three joints of second finger or the index finger, similar to the extensor digiti minimi or extensor digitorum. However, it exerts its function only at the level of the second digit or the index finger. And the nerve supply is once again via the radial nerve, via the nerve root C6, C7, and C8. Moving on, talking about the abductor pollicis longus muscle, as the name suggests, its function is to abduct the thumb, and the nerve supply is via the radial nerve, and it arises from the posterior aspect or the dorsal aspect of the radius and the interosseous membrane and the middle part of the ulna. The insertion is on the base of the first metacarpal, and thus that is why it exerts its function on the thumb via abduction of it. Then we have the extensor pollicis longus muscle. As the name suggests, it is involved in the extension of the thumb, and it is involved in the extension of the all three joints of the thumb, which is the carpometacarpal, metacarpophalangeal, and interphalangeal joint. And it is similar in that context to the extensor didi minimi, extensor indicis, or the extensor ditorum. However, the difference is that it is actually exerting its function on the three joints of the thumb, because there was no other muscle like the extensor ditorum which was acting at all the digit axis for the thumb. So it is a muscle which acts as the extensor of the joints of the thumb, and its origin is from the middle and the posterior aspect of the ulna and via the interosseous membrane, and it inserts into the base of the distal phalanx of the thumb. The nerve supply is again via the radial nerve via C6, C7, and C8 nerve roots. Just like the extensor pollicis longus, we have another muscle which is extensor pollicis brevis. It is shorter. Its origin is from posterior distal radius and inserts once again into the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb instead of the distal phalanx, and thus it does not exert its function on all three joints of the thumb. Instead, it exerts its function only at the carpometacarpal and the metacarpophalangeal joint of the thumb via the function of extension. The radial nerve is the nerve supplier for this muscle via the nerve root C6, C7. However, there is no C8. Here in the surface anatomy, you can see the very prominent and superficial tendons of the extensor ditorum, and you can also take a look at the extensor pollicis longus here and the extensor pollicis brevis, which actually are involved in the formation of the anatomic snuff box, which we are going to take a look in the upcoming part of the lecture as well. So these extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, and abductor pollicis, as well as extensor ditorum muscles, these are superficially very easily palpable. You can also see the joints. These are actually the knuckles, which are the metacarpophalangeal joints. This one is also the metacarpophalangeal joint. Here we have the carpometacarpal joint somewhere. Here have the interphalangeal joint of the thumb, and these are the proximal interphalangeal joints of the thumb, and these are the distal interphalangeal joints of the thumb. Distal interphalangeal joints of the fingers. So that's pretty much all about the extrinsic muscles of the wrist and hand, which are acting at the level of the digits. And I hope you learned something new out of it. So keep on watching sqadia.com for more lectures like this. Thank you very much.